Welcome to Claiming Space, the podcast. I'm Gail Austin, an advocate for caregivers, a dreamer, an iPhone photographer, and a self-confessed museum lover. Oh, and I'm the mother of two adult children, one who is disabled, and I am her caregiver. As a caregiver, it took me some time to learn how to carve out space for me and to be okay with claiming my space. But once I did, this simple step allowed me to stay fueled, fulfilled, and replenished. Each week, I will share my stories, my journey, and ways I stay inspired as a caregiver. Join me for shared stories, connections, special guests, and inspiration. We all have dreams of what we think we're going to do or who we're going to be. My big dream, I wanted to be a writer. I've never really revealed how much I wanted to truly be a writer. My writing projects were always a slow burn. And if I'm honest, a vision of me as a successful writer was always just that, a vision. But a dream can change, and your path can change. And along the way, you can meet your literary idol, and she can inspire you. Let's chat about my inspiration, Toni Morrison, and what she means to me. When I was younger, I made an effort to write, but I never truly took the time to dedicate myself to the craft. I never had that all consuming energy. Over the years, my writing went through cycles. I occasionally wrote a short story or a poem. I took a writing class, but nothing really ever stood out. But if I'm truly honest, I didn't have the passion to push through. That singular focus, the passionate writer, writing pages of text, writing 5 books before 30. For me, that was an illusion. It wasn't real. Now, as I reflect, I realize writing wasn't my path. I appreciate the craft. I really do. But my path is different. I did not find my creative voice with a pen. I found my creative voice with my iPhone camera, and that's the truth of it. I can look at something and I can see what I'm trying to capture in a single frame. That action fills me with calm and wonder. And when I look at my pictures, there's a reliving of that moment. And even though my pen is now a camera, I continue to be inspired by great writers. This story is about a great writer whose words and voice inspire me every day. And this is the time I met my writing idol. And it started with a question. Hey, do you want to see Toni Morrison? She's going to be at Temple University. Was there even a doubt I would say no to this question? That was a loud yes, I want to go. I brought along my copy of Beloved, even though I knew she was going to talk about her latest novel, which at the time was Paradise. I just didn't have a copy of it yet. She was speaking to our group in a big gymnasium at Temple University, and we sat on hard bleachers. They were very uncomfortable, but none of us really cared. We were there to hear Toni. I thought she was going to do this lecture about why she wrote the story and delve into the characters. But what we got, the most amazing gift instead. Toni Morrison read Paradise to us. She read the first chapter of Paradise, the whole chapter, not just a couple of paragraphs. We were in an auditorium with Toni Morrison reading to us. Hearing the author speak her words with the inflection she intended when she wrote them. Like when you read, for me, I form in my mind the cadence of the words and the highs and the lows and what they mean, how they're being spoken, where to put the emphasis on a word. When I'm reading on my own, I'm visualizing those images. That's what happens for me. So to hear her read that chapter, she reading her words to us, hearing her intention in every word that she speaks. It's like she was speaking to us how she intended for us to hear it through her words, through her voice. And at the end of her reading, everyone was moved. My friend said, "Hey, we need to go stand in line because she's going to sign copies of her book." Thank goodness I did bring Beloved, even though it wasn't Paradise. So we stepped out a little early before the lecture ended to go stand in line. And as we're standing in line, I'm trying to figure out what to say to her. Like, what should I ask my idol? I knew how she started as a writer. I knew her story, but I wanted to think of something smart, clever, and edgy, or something she hadn't been asked before. But of course, when I'm standing in front of her, I'm drawing a complete blank. And I did the typical asked her about, how she started writing her first novel, which I knew the answer to, but I wanted to do something more thought provoking. But that question did not form in my mind. I just couldn't get out of my head that I was inches away from someone who meant so much to me. You see, the beauty of the moment, she graciously answered my question, even though she had answered that question many times, and signed my book. And the other beauty of this whole time was having her read to us. I keep that with me because of her words, hearing her say her words. Whenever I read her writing, I hear Toni reading to us. For me, when I read her work, I immediately realize each word has multiple meanings, phrases, and pacing mean something. I have to focus hard on her words. I have to be present when I read her work. I can't just randomly look through the pages. The intimacy of her language makes me want to open up to the world. It makes me want to see the world in a certain way. Over the years, there have been so many interviews where the reporter challenged Toni on who she wrote for. And she told them, she wrote for us. She told our stories from her truth, our Black stories, our truth. And that's how it should be for us to reflect on our journey, our stories. That's the thing about being an artist. You strive to be authentic, to be yourself, to be okay with everything that you are. Toni continues to teach me. And this is one of my most favorite quotes of hers. And it's so relevant for what's going on in the world right now. This is precisely the time when artists go to work. There's no time for despair, no place for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. With these words, she is giving us inspiration, instruction, and leadership. She is telling us to present our truth without fear, without internal hesitation, without silencing and making ourselves small. This is all about making yourself as big and as large as possible and putting your voice out there, whatever that voice may be, whether that is words on a paper, your physical voice out in the world, whether you are reciting something or singing something or speaking in a room full of people, whether it's something you were drawing on a piece of paper or it's a picture you took, whatever your form of art is, there is no time for despair, no place for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. When I think of Toni Morrison and I think of her gift, the gift I was given by being in a room with her and having her read to us, I can close my eyes for a minute whenever I read her words or hear her words, and I can almost hear her reading to me again. For many years, I had on my desk a little statement I wrote, and it was, "Channel your inner Toni Morrison." So you may ask, what does that mean? It's how she presented herself to the world. Whenever Toni Morrison was interviewed, she was passionate, but she was measured. She never raised her voice. Toni Morrison would own those interviewers with her words and her intellect. Don't mess with her. When she said something, you better listen, because she was speaking truth to power. She didn't have to raise her voice. She didn't have to argue with you. She was telling you the truth. And if you sat there and took that in, you realized she was telling you the truth. That's what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to put our truth out there and leave it out there in a permanent way, or as long as permanent can be. And you may be asking yourself, why is this all so important? Why am I so passionate about this? Because art is within us and it grows and expands when we share it and when we speak it. That is the power of telling a story. Whether you're telling that story in this type of podcast format, or you're telling that story on a piece of paper, or you're telling that story visually in a movie or a play or a TV show, the power of telling that story, it could touch one person, or it could be 5 people, or it could be 2,500 people. It's just what that impact is. One to many, many to one, it doesn't matter. It's an impact. And if you tell that story and it changes someone's understanding or perspective, opens them up, helps them get to some level of compassion for another human, that is the beauty of art. So again, I say I take to heart Toni's reading and her words. This is precisely the time when artists go to work. There is no time for despair, no place for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. I thought I was going to be a writer, but I did not find my creative voice with the pen like I thought I was going to. I found my creative voice with my pictures. I found a way to be creative that fills me up and gives me joy. And this is the thing about claiming space. I'm filling myself up every single day, even on those really hard days. I hope these episodes are giving you a moment to pause and reflect and to be. I see claiming space as an artful experience in reconnection with yourself, an artful way of sharing my message, of bringing a little light, of bringing a little joy, of sharing little parts of me, because I am an artist. And this is precisely the time when artists go to work. Thank you for listening to this episode, and please share this link with your friends. Rate the podcast and follow me on Instagram. And soon, Claiming Space will be on Patreon. The Claiming Space movement is here to support and provide a safe community where caregivers are acknowledged and seen. Have a fabulous day.